For this commentary, I'm just going to focus on the monologue before us. This is the first monologue of Hamlet. You'll see from the notes here that we have all kinds of things going on. We have that motif of the contemptus mundi. He'll suddenly come out with expressions of disdain for the world. But these are juggled a little bit with some exposition of what motivates Hamlet, or at least the world to which he's reacting. We see this in the most extraordinary language. If we contrast it with the very ordered business meeting agenda that we've just seen from Claudius, here we have caesuras all over the place. We have a number of words that aren't even words. If you count the O God, God, fiont, phi, and later use of the word O here, we begin to notice that Hamlet experiences a pain that goes beyond the rational, goes beyond something which he can express. Now, E.M. Forster once said that when we are in times of great trouble, we fall back on cliches and on modern languages. Now, Hamlet does something quite similar. We start to see classical allusions. Niobe here, no more like my father than I to Hercules. It almost feels colloquial there. And Niobe is the classical trope for tearfulness. She is the woman who boasted to Hera that she could have many more babies than she did, Hera being the mother of Artemis and Apollo. And for her boast, Niobe lost all of her children. Now, Hamlet here juggles that classical frame of reference with an understanding of Christianity, or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. Oh, that the good Lord had not banned suicide. Now, as you might know from the classical world, Stoics are allowed to consider ending their lives, and indeed, at the end of the play, Horatio says, I'm more an antique Roman than a Dane, and alludes to a much more classical system of values, the kind that Cicero would have appreciated. And again, we look to the world of his humanism as adulated, admired by Shakespeare's time and the Elizabethan court. But interspersed with these, and it's worth looking at these expressions of contemptus mundi before we see what they're interspersed with, sorry. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Later on, with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, he'll call it a stale, flat promontory. And then he's more specific about the particular, and that it come to thus. There's exclamations. Be very careful, by the way, about talking about exclamation marks in Shakespeare. In fact, don't do it. Examiners' reports always say that those remarks are editorial. So although it's very tempting just to think, oh, lots of punctuation, let's pick up how many exclamation marks there are. Don't do it, okay? Go, though, with expectorations. Go with apostrophizing, for example. Oh, most wicked speed, as if speed is somebody you could address. Apostrophizing means when you address somebody or something that is not on stage. Most wicked speed, frailty, thy name. So he's actually addressing the personified, abstract idea of frailty and personifying it, embodying it with the idea of woman. Heaven and earth must I remember. The sheer quantity of things he apostrophizes shows just the kind of chaotic state that his brain is in, as do the shuttling around of subject matter. Now, let's look at what actually ails him. We have had allusions to this before. The Queen, we've noticed, has thought about Hamlet as having his eyes upon and looking for his father in the dust. That is part of the problem, but he also identifies, as does the Queen later on to the King, their too hasty marriage. But 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. Quite an important, useful marker there for timing. And later on, watching the play, he says to Ophelia, 2 hours. And then Ophelia corrects her, no, 2 months. Oh, as long as that. So excellent to King. Now, I've just been reading your essays on fathers and sons. And we have here embodied that sense of nostalgia, so excellent a king. And notice that, and again, Hyperion to a satyr, Hamlet reaches for a language of the past, that classical lexis, Hyperion, god of the sun, to a satyr being a kind of pot-bellied, roly-poly, bearded figure who would appear at the end of comedies and belch and fart. He actually uses the ancient world to say how great his recent past was, including a figure of ridicule from that ancient world to compare to Claudius. It's almost as though Claudius has to fit into his educated frame of reference, even if it means giving Claudius some of the dignity of belonging to the past. So we have a strong sense here of Hamlet looking back, not knowing what the future holds, and also having that strong, that first one of his big soliloquies, and he's very aware that it is a soliloquy, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. He is one of those characters in Shakespeare who wants to express themselves, but the political situation makes it too difficult. You could almost read in that moment a sense of the caution, almost that A.C. Bradley talks about. He may want to execute revenge, but it's incredibly difficult to do so, given the constraints on what he can do, say, and even think.